Hi everyone, we'll be drawing out some ideas for how to make a 3D printed bottle opener. I'll be doing my drawing on screen, but I find it's even easier to do on paper. So, a regular bottle opener has an opening with a sort of round lip in there that's used to pry off our bottle cap. So goes in, contacting the edge of the bottle cap. This line here sits on the top of it. So we're going to need it to be able to sit on top of the bottle cap and pry it open. And we can already see that there's a problem. Most bottle openers are made of metal. When you make something out of plastic, it's probably not going to successfully pry off too many metal bottle caps. So we're going to need a metal part. But we don't need the entire thing to be metal. We just need this part to be metal. So for that, we're going to use a penny. Since we can easily find a penny, we just need to replace this area of our print with a metal part. Now you could use a metal washer or some other round piece of metal, but since a penny is readily available and we can easily measure it, we'll design it so that you can attach the penny and then you'll be able to use it as a bottle opener. So we're going to need our opening in our plastic part here. And it's going to need a slot in the center of it in which we can insert the penny. This way, once we have even just a simple plastic box with a hole in it, we'll be able to get it over the top of the bottle cap, and here's my really bad bottle, pry it off. But just being a box is pretty boring. So how are we going to design it? I'm going to make mine, we'll start with a box. It's going to have an opening, and it's going to have the penny sticking up here. So I think it'll be funny if this is a mouth, and we can put some big ridiculous eyes on here, and some hands. Make it just a strange little monster. We don't want our details to be too big. Give him some kind of feet. If we gave him huge arms out here, or wings, it's going to be hard to get him around a bottle. So let's keep these simple, and I think I will design a strange little monster whose mouth will open your bottles. So, I'll see you in the next lesson where we will see how we develop this design in Tinkercad. We are going to slice our penny bottle opener and figure out a way that we can add the penny, which is going to be our actual tool here, into our part in the middle of printing. So here we go. First, we're going to export and make sure that we are exporting just the shape so I don't get my extra example or anything else that's floating in there as an STL file. And then we're going to head over to Cura. We want to import our design into Cura and make sure that our printer and material are set correctly. I want to make sure for the material that I'm printing that I check on the temperature, because I'm going to need that later. And PLA, we're printing at 200 degrees. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we are not generating supports, because even on recommended here, we can turn off supports. We do not want to fill in our area here with support material, as we're going to fill it with a penny. This is a nice straight up design, so we can print it at a fairly thick layer height. And we need to slice our model before we can set up the settings that we need. So once we slice and preview our design, we can see all of the layers that we're going to print, and we can go and find the layer at which we make the top of the space for the penny. So here on layer 14, I have finished the space for the penny, and on layer 15, I am printing the top on top of the penny. Now, at this point, with an empty space, it's just going to kind of sag in there. It'll make it very hard to put a penny in later. But if you do print it without this method, you can possibly heat up your part just warm enough with a hairdryer or something that you can push a penny in there because it becomes flexible. This is rather dangerous and could damage your part heating it up like that, so I wouldn't recommend it. Let's try and get that penny in while we're printing. So we know we have layer 14, and we have to go to something not in the actual settings, but all the way up here to extensions. And in Cura, we go to post-processing and modify G-code. This sounds rather complicated, but there are scripts that already exist. So we click on add a script, and we go down. There's some interesting things that you can do, but one is pause at height. Here's where we can change the values of what we are pausing at and how we are going to do it. We know that we are at layer 14, so I'm going to go to pause at layer number instead of height, and we're going to put in 14 because that is where we have finished the pocket for our penny. We're going to pause there, and then we are going to add the penny and hit start again. So we want to leave this disarm timeout at 0 because we don't want the motors to turn off and lose our position. So the motors will not turn off. The motors will move to 190 and 190, which is the corner of the printer, so they'll be out of the way. And we're not going to retract or extrude any filament. Now, if you try this and you find that you have a problem where plastic pours out of your nozzle while you're waiting, you might add retraction to it for the next time. But for now, we're going to leave these at 0. And we're going to come down here to the standby temperature. Now, while it is paused, currently it will let the nozzle cool down. Now, if you let the nozzle cool down and the project cool down, and you walk away, and you come back later, put that penny in and tell it to start up again, chances are that layer, which is very important, will not adhere very well, which means when you push on the penny, you might split the layer off because things were allowed to cool down. So to make this work, we're going to need to keep an eye on the printer. And I say this with a lot of caution. You can put this at our 200 degrees so that it maintains the temperature on the nozzle while we are waiting to put our penny in. Now, if you do this, do not by any means leave the printer unattended to do this job. You will need to stay by the printer and wait for it to pause. Immediately put the penny in place and tell it to go again. If you're keeping an eye on this like a hawk, you can leave this standby temperature off entirely. But if you do increase this temperature at all, it means the heater will stay on even if you walk away and leave your printer paused. So do not change this from 0 if you might possibly walk away from your printer. So once we have this setting, we're going to close this. And now it says we have an extra script to deal with, so we're going to slice it again. Now we have produced the code that includes the pause at layer 14. So we can save this to file. Now we have our G code ready to send and ready to print. See you next time.